Now let's take a look back at this week's headline-making stories with our Reporters Rewind. Our guest at the round table are Arise News contributor Wallace Ford. He is a political blogger and professor at Medgar Evers College. See, Wallace, I got that in.
Thank you so much.
Freelance journalist and blogger Monique John is here in our New York studio. And from D.C., joining us is Arise News correspondent Leila Mcdowell. Hello to all of you.
Good evening.
Hello.
Okay, so it's no surprise I can't get through this week. Hey, Leila. I can't get through this week with Reporters Rewind without also talking about the election, which probably most of us are tired of talking about. But let's talk about this and what it means for the legislative body moving forth for the next presidential election. And since you're there inside the Beltway, Leila, let's start with you. Do you have any hope that Congress and the president will find a way to work together?
Well, I think the real question may not be, can we compromise? And I think this is what you hear liberal Democrats saying. They're saying it's not so much about compromise, it's about standing up and fighting for what they believe are the right policies. And we've seen this real rightward shift in America over time. And a lot of the reason for that is because Democrats do tend to compromise with Republicans. So if you look at it, Richard Nixon would be considered a liberal today. President Johnson would probably be considered a socialist or communist today. But yes, there are some areas where Obama wants to compromise with Republicans. Many Democrats are against that. He wants to compromise on trade, for example, something that most Democrats oppose, the free trade deals that labor is against. So they're going to find some areas, but nothing really big. I mean, everybody's setting themselves up for that 2016 run, so they've got to show some real clear lines of definition on who they are.
You know, Wallace, who's here in our studio, I said this earlier in the show, you know, there seems to be a lot of saber rattling going on. Boehner and McConnell has said that Obama will, quote unquote, poison the well if he goes it alone on immigration. The president has said he will go it alone on immigration if they don't work together. So I'm wondering if they really have any intention to.
Well, we have to remember that Mitch McConnell is the person who on January 20th, 2009, immediately after Barack Obama was inaugurated as president of the United States, said, my goal is not to work with the president, is not to try to see the country is better. His mission and goal was to see that Barack Obama was a one-term president. Having failed in that, his goal and his mission and many of his colleagues has been to try to diminish the Obama administration whenever possible. So I don't know that a threat from John Boehner or a threat from Mitch McConnell that somehow Barack Obama is going to make things worse is really something that the president ought to be particularly concerned about. I think it is important, though, for Democrats, and this is to Leila's point, I think, as well, for Democrats to finally stand up and say, well, wait a minute, this has not been a failed presidency. This has not been a failed time of Democratic control of the Senate and of the Congress at one point. We have the Affordable Care Act. We have Dodd-Frank Act, the total revision of the financial services regulation system. We've had all of these things take place, the removal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and the list is really a very long one and something that I think should be very proud of, and we need to think about that as well. Monique,
I want to bring you in here, comment on that, but I also want you to add in, how then do we, probably part of the reason that the Democrats could not hold the Senate is because the minority vote, particularly African American vote, just simply didn't turn out. So how can we energize that block of the vote, which will make a big difference in the upcoming presidential election?
Well, I first would have to say that I totally agree with you, Wallace, that the accomplishments that Obama has made during his presidency are extremely important, even though in the moment, with all the struggle that has gone back and forth, all the partisan struggle that has gone back and forth, it seems to have tried to downplay what he's done. But when you really look at the hard facts, you can't downplay them. And I actually wonder if people actually need external pushing to go out and vote next time, because the disappointment in people is palpable. I almost am curious to see if people will actually go out and turn out for the next election, not only because of the fact that the turnout this time was so poor, but I also wonder if in time for the next election, people will actually start to see the results of not having gone out and really pointed out who they wanted, and having that result of, having Republicans going out and creating legislation that doesn't speak to them, that doesn't serve them, and really seeing this isn't working.
Yeah.
There's no other way.
Of course, we always see a higher voter turnout across the board with all parts of the electorate in a presidential election.
Right.
So we will see that, but how do we galvanize them is the big question. Let me ask you this, Leila. Of course, the Supreme Court just said that they will hear the case of, I think it's King versus Burwell, which is yet again the Republicans taking another whack at affordable care. The timing seems mighty interesting, although this was coming anyway, no matter, it's despite the election. Your take on it?
Well, you know, this could be not just a whack, but a real death blow to the Affordable Health Care Act and one of Obama's legacies, because what it essentially is going to do is say that those 34 states that now are depending on federal subsidies will no longer be able to do that if the Supreme Court rules in favor of the plaintiffs, who are basically attacking the law over language. And you know what's interesting about this is not a constitutional question. What the Supreme Court justices will actually be deciding is, what does the law say? So what the plaintiffs are saying is that because the law does not explicitly say that the federal government can offer subsidies, but only speaks about the states, that those states that are not offering state subsidies, therefore any federal subsidies, are illegal. And that could affect about 5 million people and counting. This is coming, November 15th is when open enrollment starts again. So that would mean this would really impact middle income and low income Americans, and those are the people that this law was really targeted to help. So it's very significant, and it would definitely play into Republicans saying, look what we were able to accomplish, and they will use that as a major issue in 2016.
Well, it's going to be an IQ
Obama,
test for Republicans.
Hillary Clinton, should she run to Obama.
Yeah, well see, here's the thing. These just to Leila's point, these are some IQ tests coming up for the Republicans. One would be, do you really want to go to 5 million people and say, yes, I'm responsible for taking your health care away, please vote for me? Okay, it is not, I don't see how that plays in any state, red state or blue state, when you're talking about taking away people's health care. Another IQ test is going to be, now that the Republicans have putative control of the Senate, they don't have veto-proof control, they don't have a full majority, but they do have control of the Senate, they already have control of the House. Are they going to try to impeach Barack Obama? Now, people on the crazies and not so crazies have said that this is a strategy that they want to use to tie this president's hands for the next year and a half.
And I want to jump in there because we got to bring this conversation to a close, but to quote one of my favorite political strategists, who is our senior political analyst here at Arise, James Carville, of course they are.
Okay.
And I believe what he says. Leila Mcdowell, Wallace Ford, Monique John, thanks to all of you. Appreciate you.
Okay, thank you so much.
And you're watching Arise America.